Welcome to Better Mojo, Better Life, the podcast that explores the secrets of optimizing intimacy, mastering sexual wellness, balancing hormones, and keeping your vital mojo alive. Hosted by Tim Sawyer and Melissa Vinci, we bring you expert insights, candid conversations, and actionable tips to empower both men and women on their journey to a more fulfilling and vibrant life. Tune in, turn up the mojo, and let's embark on this exciting adventure together. Get ready for Better Mojo, Better Life. Brought to you by Pellicome, the leading provider in bioidentical hormone treatment. Pellicome is setting the standard with the RE3 advanced pellet delivery system for men and women, and the one-of-a-kind patented medical device to insert BHRT pellets. Become a part of the Pellicome revolution. And RegenMax, the only worldwide patented treatment for the reversal of erectile dysfunction with a 97% success rate. And here are your hosts, Tim Sawyer and Melissa Vinci.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Sawyer.
And I'm Melissa Vinci.
And we are here on Better Mojo, Better Life. It's great to be with you for our 5th episode. Can you believe that? 5th episode.
Can't believe time is flying by.
Time is flying. We've got a great lineup today. In our last episode, we spoke with Dr. Robert Marshall and Christina Imes, the owners of True Male Medical in Oak Brook, Illinois. Really cool story about Dr. Marshall. Starting from being a Vietnam pilot, he's in his 70s now. He looks amazing. He's an expert in what he calls healthy aging, not anti-aging. He prefers the term healthy aging. And he's currently writing a book, Living Life in the Fourth Quarter. And so if you missed that episode, we encourage you to check that out for sure. Today's guest, amazing. We're fortunate, probably needs no introduction. Kris Fishman is the president of Wells Pharmacy. We're going to talk more about his role there. And we're going to talk about Wells Pharmacy. In particular, there's a lot of confusion around what is a compounding pharmacy. And we want to get into that and debunk some myths around that. Wells is a leader in compounding space, specializing in anti-aging, weight management, sexual wellness, aesthetics, as well as thyroid and adrenal health. And we're going to let Kris explain what all that means for our listeners, to our providers. And here's what we're going to talk about today. Number one, we want to talk about the quality, the importance of the quality of a compounding pharmacy. What does that mean? And Kris, kind of what objective criteria people would use to determine a quality pharmacy. We want to talk about emerging trends in the use of peptides. I think that's going to be fun, including what is a peptide, right? I bet if you took a survey of 100 people, 2 could probably explain what a peptide is, including I would be in the 98, and I'm around this stuff all the time. So we're going to talk about the weight loss craze. Weight loss is actually, the craze is being driven by peptides. So that's a nice tie in there. Some game-changing, groundbreaking peptides up and coming with Wells. We want to hear about those, the application of that. Peptides that affect libido, which is super important to our listeners in the context of this podcast. And then we want to get into BHRT. And Kris, part of the discussion around BHRT is, what is that and how is that different from a take-home injection kit? What are the pros and cons of both of those, meaning testosterone that you inject, and everything in between? So with all that being said, Kris, why don't we start with you and a brief introduction and tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing at Wells.
Yeah, thanks, Tim and Melissa. Good to be on the show. So yeah, I've been with Wells Pharmacy Network this is going on my 10th year. Wow. I'll tell you, there was not a lot of excitement for the first 5 years in this industry, especially when people said, what's a compound pharmacy? And I got that often, right? Over the last few years, I think GLP-1s really took note, and everyone figured out what a compound pharmacy was real fast. Also, obviously, with peptides and things like that, it became more interesting on, how do I have anti-aging or better sex or whatever it may be that you were looking to do. So with the compound pharmacy, we've been sort of growing our business. We've got 2 decent sized locations, over 20,000 square feet in Ocala, Florida, one in Dyersburg, Tennessee, which is or I'll explain what a 503B is shortly. We have another office in Dallas, Texas. We opened up one just recently in Melbourne, Florida. Wow. And we're growing. We're looking to do some additional ones, hopefully in the West Coast.
Got it.
So just to kind of brief what kind of pharmacies they are.
Not to interrupt you, but does Wells have an international footprint? Is that?
We tried. We tried.
tried.
We went to Dubai for a little bit, and we weren't able to get anything approved. They just said keep building the pharmacy, and nothing sort of came to the end. So we ended up leaving. We do and have
We're
been
going to go back there, Kris, though. We're going back for a second
yeah.
turn.
So for an importing piece, yeah, that at least for the exporting side, we that seems to be the play, and we've done a few of those now. So it's working with our DEA and the other country is usually the key. So yeah, we do have a little bit of a presence there.
Okay.
But to kind of set the stone on what type of pharmacy, 503As are patient specific. So we'll get a prescription, we'll fulfill your script based on, to your home and usually sort of a need that doesn't exceed the beyond use date. 503Bs are really ran by the FDA's sort of their oversight. 503As are states, state board of pharmacies. And the Bs essentially allow us to send product to office to be administered in an office. So pellets, for example, right? So we have essentially both, and we're excited with that piece. We're also excited that
are you familiar with a recent change in that?
Yes, yeah, I was just going to say in July.
Let's make sure we get into that because
in July
we're getting some calls about that and what's that all about.
Yeah, that's exciting. A 503B now would have its licenses, and it would be able to move the product over to a 503A, allowing the 503A to take it and sell it under a prescription. So that's a very cool change. We have a lot of regulatory pieces, which I think for the sake this is medicine, and we don't want our next door neighbors and anyone. I'm going to own a pharmacy today. So there's a lot of value in that, but typically it's taking away things. This was an opportunity for us to see, a consistency as well, right? So you have the opportunity to have a 503B CGMP facility, current good manufacturing, to allow us to send it to an A, which now we can have distribution set up in different states to get things out faster to the customer. So I think that was a great move. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Like I said, I've been doing this for a decade. It's gotten exciting, I think more personal. I've seen a lot of people go through COVID. I've seen a lot of people go through losing 100 pounds, literally over the last 3 years. And frankly, people have said, this has changed my life. Whether it's they look better and they just seem to have a better life. Imagine walking around, at least from a weight point of view, 100 pounds on you. I mean,
I can almost. I lost 35.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, it was over 6 months.
Excellent.
But the bigger things, and I mentioned this on last episode, the bigger things was blood pressure went down. I got off a couple of medications that I've been on forever, and GI system got rejuvenated. And it like you said, it's a miracle, quite frankly.
Yeah. A lot of things fix themselves when you take weight off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Kris, can you touch upon the high quality that Wells exceeds on for a compounding pharmacy, and maybe the high quality, if you're a great compounding pharmacy like yourselves, that you guys adhere to? Because I think that's a big question for a lot of people when they hear a compounding pharmacy. Okay, what's the kind of quality control that that you have in each pharmacy, and how does that relate to the actual patient?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's funny is I usually go into a doctor's office and say, Wells is great. We have the best quality. He says, well, the person who just came in to sell, your competitor, just said the same thing, right? So it is obviously our number one piece. Like, I didn't get into the pharmacy to hurt anybody. Obviously, we got into this business thinking, how do we help people? So when you start to look at this, I've always said to people, best thing is, if you can, come to the pharmacy. Let us tour you. Let us show you what we do and why we do it, and what are red flags, right? So when we make a product, we're not, we'll have a date that's made, and I'm not selling it to you tomorrow. It's got to go through appropriate testing, every lot that is, to make sure sterility is found, to make sure the endotoxins are looked at, particular potency and all the tests that we are going to be doing. So that's a super important, clearly. And then when it comes to the ability to have your quality unit say, no, this is not good, you have to say that's okay. In fact, I don't even necessarily have that control. It's going to be taken out or moved out of it's not going to be circulated to the public.
So like an independent.
That's imperative, right? Because, you know, I can make decisions based on business if I want, but in the end, it's about safety. So the other part is I'm not afraid to share things like C of A's, testing results, and things like that. A lot of companies will say, you know, well, that's a proprietary
What do
or
you mean
secret.
by C of A? Certificate
So
of
certificate of authenticity, or so that we're buying products from where we're buying from. You know, when the FDA shows up or anybody shows up, you know, you have to hand this paperwork to them, and you have to not be like, oh, great, you know, you should expect it, you know. So I think as a consumer myself or a family, clearly I want to know these things are happening. You know, I don't want to get the random one that wasn't done that my wife ends up getting, you know, or you know, a kid or something like that.
So
That's
let me ask you a question, because maybe I'm confused on this. So when you had previously said, so can consumers purchase through the Wells chain, or is it just providers that are
so.
purchasing?
So we can, yes. We don't see a lot of individuals. A lot
Got
of
it.
individuals are not yet aware of these products, which is a shame.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
the reason I ask that is, how could a consumer really discern between, hey, this is quality and this isn't quality? Like, what's
right.
the objective process?
Well, a lot of it we're either mapping to some, you know, where they live,
Yep.
to you know, some physicians or clinics that we can share with if they're willing to, and others, you know, I would say majority of them are already coming from the clinic directly. So for example, they have the relationship with, say, you. They were introduced to Wells. They obviously know Wells's products. When it comes to the Melissa's point on the quality side, I'm talking more necessarily like physicians to say, why do you choose quality pharmacy and not the cheapest price?
Right.
You know, so I think that you know, I've always said to people, look, it's, you know, most of this is concierge medicine.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about how you're going to save money, opposed to having the best products, and I'm not saying other people are have cheap
Yep.
products and best quality, it's just, you know, I think that's before anything is the most important piece. You know, this is not, this is stuff getting injected in your body. It's pretty personal. You know, I
It is.
remember my wife saying once to me,
Melissa,
she's like,
you have a duty as CEO of Pelicom to make sure that you're ensuring patient safety, right? So there's a second layer. So talk about how you do that with Pelicom. You've been to the facility, I assume, and you've got.
So, yeah, absolutely. So everything that we promote with our clinics at Pelicom, we go through a really deep due diligence process. And so Kris knows I'm probably at his pharmacy at least once a quarter. You know, I'll, you know, say to Kris, you know, hey, I'm coming into Tennessee and I want to head down to the Pella facility, or, you know, I'm flying into Ocala, and as Kris says, it's an open invitation. I don't really announce that I'm coming, you know, oh, I'm going to come a month from now. It's, you know, I'm heading down there in a day or two and I just pop in.
Right.
But, you know, to Wells, his point is that they need to be ready for that visit from myself, from the FDA at any moment in time. So their facilities are always kept to the same standard, the same high quality standard. And we make sure of that. And and because we know we have that open invitation, that leads to us knowing that we're giving the highest quality products out there. And that goes with anything that we sell, whether it's supplements or it's BHRT, it's a peptide. We're making sure that we do great due diligence. And that's part of my job. You know, I also am head of regulatory at Pelicom as well. So that's part of my job to make sure that I'm always on the forefront of the due
Yeah,
diligence and making sure that I'm, you know, making those visits, and I make them quite often.
that's good. And generally speaking, you guys would know this better than me. Do you see, do people, I shouldn't say people, providers, someone like myself, right, actually owns or an investor in a clinic and wouldn't necessarily know how to distinguish, although we have a doctor as a medical director. For people, most of the folks who listen to this, Kris, they're providers, right? They're, in other words, they're actually doing this stuff. And I'm hoping to give them a sense of to what you said. Patient safety is number one. We in our clinic, we talk about the 3 R's: results, meaning patient results; revenue, and getting good reviews, and they're all tied together, right? And so I'm curious how many smaller clinics are out there that aren't going through that process, and what's the message for them? Like, we got to encourage them. Hey,
right. And it's that's not a good thing.
no. So the takeaway, I think, is you got to do your due diligence and take a minute, right? If you're going to the point of if someone's injecting that in their body, that's a big thing, right? It's not like my
Yeah.
pin is going to stop working.
And it's also, Tim, goes down to, the pellets, and Kris knows this, and I'm a proponent of it. People have to realize, and Kris touched upon it a little bit, is that just because it's cheaper doesn't, make it better. And it's almost the opposite when you look at our industry and you're looking at peptides and you're looking at medication and supplementation. If you want to get a high quality, in a lot of instances, you have to pay for that high quality. If you want them to be making sure that every single lot is up to the highest quality, it's going to cost more than somebody who's not. Or to make sure that, they're being packaged absolutely correctly, and the sterility is there and the potency is there. That costs money. That costs the pharmacy money. And in turn, you're going to pay more money. But I would rather pay more money and get better results and make sure that I'm getting the highest quality product out there. And I think that there's, Kris can touch upon this. There's so many little mom and pops out there, or different companies that are trying to cut corners and trying to get those weight loss peptides out there as fast as they possibly can, but they're not doing them correctly, or they're not manufacturing them correctly. They're not as the highest quality.
Yeah.
And that's what's a shame, because that's what gives us the industry and the bad name. So you have to really pay for what you're getting.
I get, but this is a really important topic to cover, because this is, again, very personal to me and my colleagues who are clinic owners, who get solicited every day by someone that says, "Hey, you guys doing tirzepatide and semaglutide?" Yep. "Oh, check this out. Here's our new price screen." And you're like, whoa. And there are differences, right? And so do you guys, are you feeling that there's a rush from the provider level to just get these meds regardless, right? And how would the end consumer, there's no like stamp that says something, right? For the end consumer to know where that product came from. And is that causing a problem? Right?
It is. I think a lot of clinics and physicians are doing their homework on this, though. A lot of them are visiting locations that they've never heard of that just popped up. So I want to say that, length in the industry has also been helpful. To say, you've been doing this for 10 years, you've had your ups and downs. And again, the longer you've been doing this, the more you're learning. I think we I can sit here and tell you that, from day one through, 10 years later, we make great products for the sake that we know what we've done wrong and we fix it, right? Continuously improving is key in this industry. Even when they say things like practicing medicine, the word practicing is a little bit alarming. But when you look at
getting it right.
But when you look at these examples of like competitors, like I can give you a great price, but it may be 1 milligram per, let's say 1 ml opposed to 2.5 milligrams per ml. A lot of people don't do math and they say, well, it's cheaper. Same, both are 1 mLs, but one's, about 60% less in strength, right? So you have to educate that portion. A lot of people, and I was just talking to an individual clinic in Atlanta this week. He said, I received product and I tried a competitor's GLP-1 and I tried your GLP-1 and I felt like we overdosed. I said, well, maybe you should lower our dose down to a number. And I said, the only thing that can make sense on stuff like this isn't that, they're a bad company or what this or that. But when you buy in the API, which stands for active pharmaceutical ingredient, it's not always 100%. It may be 80%. It may be 85%. So if a pharmacy isn't going in there and putting more in to balance it out to 100%, then you're naturally going to get something that's a bit weaker. And a lot of these lower end ones that don't go through, I used to say, fly under the radar. They're doing that, and it saves them money, right? By me having a product that I have to put in 120%, and to get 100%, obviously it's going to cost a little bit more. But again, what made us probably our strongest thing over the last decade has been you feel good on our products, and we had to work out other things like getting things out fast and and growing the way we grew. Those were some of our hurdles that we've been,
Is
battled
supply
through.
chain still a real thing for those GLPs?
Supply chain really isn't an issue when it comes to the API. It's really supply chain became where how fast you can make it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we know from the brand side, the demand just keeps getting harder and higher and higher and higher. And they were limited to some of their production, is what you can read about. But
Yeah.
for the sake of us, I mean, no, we've been able to keep up with our demand.
Yeah.
So,
That's it's an interesting time because you can't go on Facebook, you can't go on Instagram, you can't go on TV, you can't go anywhere without people saying, "Hey, want to lose 30
yeah,
pounds, $100 first
it's the
month,
daily news.
$59." And it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, I don't think it's good. It is cool though, and that is one peptide. But what I'm hoping, particularly for our businesses, is that this interest in weight loss will transfer to other types of wellness, right? Because peptides aren't just for weight loss. There's
Right, right,
many
right.
types of peptides. And so one of the things that we want to talk about today is what are some trends in peptides, and what do you guys have coming into the marketplace that our providers should be aware of? And
Yeah. So a lot of changes happened end of 2023 where we were unable to source appropriate APIs, right? So the bulks list, and a lot of that, I look at that as a good. It's managing the greater good, right? So if you have close to 7,000 pharmacies in the country, how many people are going to a CGMP facility, registered with the FDA, willing to share documents to the FDA, I think that's imperative, right? And so some that were doing it right, and many were doing it wrong. So regardless, it is what happened. We've been focusing on actually speaking with the FDA about clarification on some of the nominations we have with with the FDA, meaning they're looking over these studies that we have and seeing, and it's actually kind of nice to see this collaboration where they're asking, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? And we've been doing this now with at least two of the nominated products. So we hope to see that we can start to build a better relationship with doing the right reasons, right? We're not hoping we're doing a good job. We have proof, at least
right.
from over the last some of these products, like BPC for 50 years. I mean, so it's just time we sit down together and say, look, let's help people. That's the same goal, obviously for safety too.
Yep.
But so some of the products that we're seeing now we'll replace some of the products left that have left, some IGF-1, so for better sleep,
Okay.
stuff for stress, and we're sort of going through all of the due diligence. We're going through all the studies. We didn't want to just replace a drug with something as fast as we could, but finding out that what is out there, what are the benefits. Even some products that have actually been off patent now after a few years,
Yep.
7 years or so. Provided some pretty good results, and we just need to get it back and talk about it and make sure it parallels with better therapies. So,
Right.
for example, GLP-1s, you lose both muscle and you lose the fat and muscle. So, what are we doing to help bring back some muscle? How do we help people sleep better? Because look, at the end of the day, lack of sleep, high levels of stress. I mean, we know these things are hurting people, and in fact, many of these things cause the main products not even to work. So we're working with our clinical team and our R&D team. So we look to launch some new products out, but I wish I could do it extremely fast, but we have to go through all our due diligence to get it to market.
It's good. I was just wondering if it's kind of the theory of, water comes in, it lifts all boats. If there's more interest in all this stuff in general now, because people are getting healthier.
I hope so. I hope so. I feel like, if we went from really the unknown stepchild to kind of hatred a little bit to now like a purpose, right? We did vaccinations when that became a need, just
Yep.
because we could roll it out fast. GLPs, I think, is important. We do this while they're on shortage and I think we keep the demand high.
Yep.
And then obviously things like skincare lines and other things that we feel that people are interested in. Hey, I lost the weight, but I'm sure they want other nice things: hair, skin, sex. I mean, they want these things. So
It is.
we have categories. So
Yeah.
let's
It is
talk about.
amazing, and I'll let's just say, but like in my case, right? So it's like going to a med spa, and you get this fix, and all of a sudden you're like, wait,
Yeah.
right? And then next thing you know, you're in there every day, and that's kind of like, to share my own little experience with weight loss. It's like you start losing a little weight and you're like, I really need to start working out. And you start working out 5 days a week. You're like, I got to get a new pair of sneakers. And you're like, you know what? My wardrobe doesn't fit me anymore. And then now I find myself asking Dr. Marshall, what exactly do you take at 76? He's getting ready to start competing in bodybuilding again.
Wow.
Dude, 76. And he's, and I want to know, I'm like, wait, how do I do that? Right? Just whatever you do, write it down. And I hope people catch that bug.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, I feel good. And then I get, like you said, I want to make my skin shiny and
yeah. And then how do I maintain it? Right. Because that's a bit of a problem. What were all these indicators that, that caused me to get to where I got?
Yeah. And what's interesting in the last conversation we had, as Melissa will remember, we were talking about there was a study out about accelerated aging, right, due to stress and environmental factors, and cancer rates, actually 150,000 people in the study, cancer rates rising in young people due to accelerated aging. And so the concept is when your biological age, right, is not consistent with where you are actually at, right? You're 50, but you feel you're 30, but you feel 50, right? And we have more and more people, it's funny, coming into the clinic now in their 30s saying, I have low testosterone, I've lost my libido, and they're just beat up, right? And it's crazy.
And the stress, I've seen that. The stress is I can't even believe it. And it seems to be between 18, I mean, younger, much younger.
Yeah. And speaking of that, from a libido perspective, what do you guys have cooked up for libido, peptides that would help with libido?
So we use, well, I mean, obviously, I think, probably look at hormones first. And I know it's funny, our core business is hormones. And I say, if you're 18, 19 years old, do you really want to start taking replacement therapy at that age, opposed to starting with, you're right, maybe like a peptide, gonadotropin, or kind of working your way, maybe even clomiphene or enclomiphene, right? Working your way up, maybe sarcotropin, medical food. And then you work your way up to where your body's you're not producing. So you got to go on hormones. There are that case as well, that nothing's going to work for you. So so those then make sense to start going into the hormones, and maybe that's a smaller dose that work your way up to where you have to be.
Yep. And are you seeing that from the provider side, Melissa?
Yeah, I think that, our providers are probably, not treating people in their teens as much, as some other providers are. But, our providers are probably mainly starting to see definitely women in their late 30s coming in with, very, very low testosterone, which is, what I mean, is I maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, probably wasn't the case, but it's like, it seems to be getting younger and younger that they don't have optimized hormones, and that is leading to a low sex drive.
Yep.
So to Kris's point, yes, we're going to start there. We're going to start, looking at their blood work, looking at their hormones, but then we do move them on to different peptides. So, what I mean? PT-141 is a great peptide. And I know, Kris, do you want to talk a little bit about PT-141? I think, Kris knows I'm a huge proponent of peptides. I use, BHRT myself, and I use daily I'm on daily peptides. Some, peptides, it's interesting that the FDA took away that are just, amazing peptides, which is really sad that they were helping so many, people. I don't know, Kris, you want to touch upon BPC 157. It's an amazing peptide, not only for gut health, but for tissue regeneration and inflammation in the body. And a lot of athletes were using it. A lot of people are using it, as well as CJC is another one that can help, these people who are going and losing a lot of weight to build more muscle mass. So there's so many great peptides.
Did you say one of those went off the market? Did you say
BPC?
Yeah, BPC 157, which is really, either repair, injury, or even stomach for Crohn's, leaky gut.
Yeah.
That's ended. CJC's fallen off the marketplace. You know, there's Somorelin has still been around, and Somorlin's been around since the 70s under the name Groth. You know, so it's been in a sort of an FDA approved orphan drug. So it's still available. But to Melissa's point, yeah, they're really have just removed it, meaning from the side of people buying potentially wrong places, you know, from the wrong source. And that led us to this becoming potential safety risks. And again, I think greater good wise, it's hard to manage that many pharmacies around. And again, regulatory has to get to this point. Because again, going back to the original statement, like you don't want your neighbor doing this. You just don't. And a lot of people got, oh, I'll just get into a pharmacy. And you know, please don't. Unless you have the money and the will and the want and you have the passion, right? Otherwise, you know, I think that's what the FDA is saying. Look, not everybody can do this.
Yeah. It's a tricky time because, like I said, from the provider side, there's just so much noise around all this stuff. And, you know, guys call up with, I read this and I read that and I read this and I read that. Fortunately, we have a great doctor who's been doing this stuff for a long time.
And that's key. That's key. I would say to anyone from a patient listening is that you got to start taking this serious. Like take your blood and start to understand your blood. You know, why is this high or low? What are solutions out there? And read. You know, I was not the first person who took the peptides. Maybe 400 people took it and I watched and I, you know, again, I'm not a blood guy, meaning I'm not a needle person, but after time, you can't deny what you saw. And that's one honor to be in my role is that I get to see results. And you know, we're doing, geez, a lot of prescriptions a month. So there's a lot of people that you can, you know, see, and you know, they're not telling you. It's just, you know, the results you're seeing. And then they get the second blood test later, and then there's like comparison, you know, what changed.
Right.
And it's hard to deny.
I think that's like a great thing too for people to do, just to get. So in traditional medicine, they're only going to get blood. You know, there's some event, and then they need blood, and then they figure out what the event is, and they try to fix it, right? But I think what you're saying is really a great takeaway: is proactively, before something happens, go and look at your blood levels and get educated on what you should be looking for at 40 and 50 and 60. And start to and then go, okay, because I'm sure Wells and Pelicom have some great resources where they can go, okay, here's my thing.
Yeah. Wish I had my 18-year-old blood test to compare to my, you know, how to stay 18 forever. You know, so that
I get it. So I know we want to get you out of here on time today. We're really grateful. I did want one other topic I wanted to discuss because there's some confusion around that in the marketplace. And if it's sensitive, whatever. And that is pelleting, BHRT versus, and I'm going to get the term wrong, cypionate testosterone. Is that how they say it? In other words,
yeah, testosterone, CPNA. So BHRT is really for the bioidentical hormones, right? Opposed to finding a synthetic version, you know, or something made from, let's say, a horse, right? Like the estrogens. When we look to synthetically make this BHRT, you know, we're identifying exactly what a woman or a man's hormones need to be, right? Okay. So when you look at a hormone or say testosterone, rather simple product, and you say, okay, I want to start with maybe a cream, maybe a capsule, maybe I'll go to the injectable, and then finally maybe I'll do the pellet. And I look at that in that order because sometimes you put a cream on and then you hug your daughter, and that's not a good thing. You put a capsule, you know, you may be taking, you know, a small percentage of the testosterone that you needed. And then you get to the injectables, and now you got peaks and valleys, right? So you got, you know, you feel great when you took it, and then, you know, it sort of plateaus, then you got to take another shot. And when you look at the esters, right? So propionate, cypionate, ethionate, it's just the length of the time of the testosterone lasting. Okay. So for example, propionate's usually the first acting, then cypionate's sort of your middle, and then ethionate's your longer. We have blends, so you can try to carry you know, your peak as long as possible. But what happens is you start to forget to take your medicine. You're traveling. There's all those barriers that sort of take place. Then there's the pellet, right? And for me, I'm scared of all this, by the way. I mean, the needle piece and the pellet piece, and Melissa knows this. I don't typically watch this. You know, once you get past that piece, the pellet starts to make its work. It goes to a certain number, and then it sort of goes through a time period where then it maybe goes down, and then you put your next insert in, which typically could be around 3 months.
Yep.
And I see that as like, you put it in and you forget about it, and that's kind of nice, right? That's, I think, the value of that part. And obviously the stability of it is nice. Now, people are afraid of it because, oh, I don't know if I put too much in, or how do I control it? What if I want to drop it?
Yeah.
Start low. That's as simple as that.
Or even the process itself, right?
Once you go, I know Melissa's done a few people that were definitely not fans of it. And I know they were kind of squiddish about it, even for a couple days. But they had, for like the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they've been saying, oh my gosh, I should have done this a long time ago.
I'm on
Yeah.
pellets right. I'm on pellets right now.
And that's it. Now they're probably not going to go back. Plus, Melissa said with the females and testosterone, a lot of women are very tired they're trying now. I got to go pick up my kid and this and that from school or wherever. After they've done some pellets, you could see a whole difference. And typically it's not them, it's their husband saying, hey, every woman should know this. So it's kind of nice to see. And it's just what we see. So, and then again, as you age, the chances are definitely likely that you will need this.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see. I can already see it in the clinic. We're seeing more and more people call up and say, I'm interested, and they know what they're interested in versus just calling up and saying, hey, I'm tired, or couldn't get an erection yesterday. They're like, hey, this is my issue. What do you have for this issue?
Yeah.
And
well, like we said, stepping stones, right? Eventually you're going to get to this point. And if someone's on injectable, it's just more convenience now. And you don't, not just it, they already don't like, but they already give themselves shots twice a week with a rather large needle. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, and the last thing that we'll let Melissa wind us down. So as a guy thinking about getting shots, particularly like a P shot, in other words, getting platelet-rich plasma spun down and injected into the penis, and other types of shots, whether it's exosomes or whatever. Or think about applying a laser to a sensitive area. I'm thinking in my brain as a guy, I'm like, I hear that and I go, I'm just not doing that. I don't want to hear anything else. Right? Just not doing that. Mm-hmm. So Melissa knows this, I literally took an iPhone, went into one of our rooms. I did a pellet insertion with the phone, talking to the doctor saying, tell me what the benefits are of these pellets. I did a P shot, I did shockwave therapy, I did a laser, all in different segments. And what's funny is that we put that stuff on social, so you guys would love this. If we do a promotion that says to a male, hey, you can save some money, or you can get a discount or something free, no response. If we say, hey, we're doing a webinar, we're going to talk about these things for 45 minutes with the doctor. I have 109 guys signed up for a webinar next week to talk about, certain treatments. Or when you say, hey, for $27, you want to get a free testosterone optimization checkup. They're like, yeah, of course. What do you mean? You're going to tell me, you're going to draw my blood, right? And then you're going to tell me what I need to do. And so they're seeking education now.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so they click on those videos. What does it look like to have a laser? And the guy's like, oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I'll do it. Right. Yeah. And some of them, they have no choice.
Some of them, they have no choice, but it's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
But the thing is, we've been doing that with women for a long time. So, all right, we know we got to get you back. Thank you so much. Melissa, is there anything else that you have to add? Any additional questions?
No, the only thing I want to do is just wind down. Kris, what would you say is your top 3 peptides that you're selling other than weight loss? Because we kind of really want people to understand that there's different things out there that they could help to with longevity and anti-aging, and be able to go into their doctor or have their doctor talk about. So I kind of just want to hear.
From a point, from just a legality piece, and Smorlin, and we have what's called Weltropin. Weltropin is a form of GHRP2, which is not able to be in an injection and or a nose spray, according to the bulk rules. Mm-hmm. So we made it in a liquid, and it's a nice enhancement to the Smorlin to help, because a lot of people were saying Smorlin's not strong enough for me. So I use this as an opportunity to take the Smarlin and put a turbocharger on that. So I think that's a nice pair. And then regarding to other great peptides, I see GHKCU was an injectable, we know, but it's not able to be that way anymore. So for hair and for skin, we've been using it in a nice cream, and we have some different cool samples with that product. And then I said we're working on a few others to look at that inflammation, what PPC used to be. So we're hoping to see something launch in the next month or two, and I'll share more. I don't know. We may have it. So
where do you recommend folks go to look into getting these peptides, and between you and Melissa?
Yeah. I mean, from Pelicom's perspective, they really channel through herself, and then we sort of cross market. If it's heard from here, then they would mention this and Pelicom, and then we would set up an account. But obviously, Wells Pharmacy Network is where the product's being made. Yeah. And they may come and seek education there, and again, if it's a patient, we're going to direct them to the Pelicom doctors, because she's got a network of so I wish I had more, Melissa, but we're working really hard to go through multiple versions, and the doctors will be happy with that there's a reason why some aren't on market and shouldn't be on market, and then others will feel like, hey, we got something that's been around a long time, it just needs to get back into our hands.
Well,
I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed that you guys are coming up with some more different alternatives to what the FDA's mandated, just because I'm such a proponent of it, and I see the difference in my health over the years because of it. And I've taken tons of different peptides. I'm still on 2 peptides that I take daily, that are game changers for me. I mean, when I say game changers, I mean, make my life so much better than it was prior, just because I'm so much healthier. I can eat better. I can sleep better. So for me, they really have been, an amazing life changer for me, and making me able to function on all levels much better. So I'm really hoping that, and confident, I should say, that you guys are going to come out with some really, really good ones that are allowed to be sold.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned. I like I said, we'll launch over the next few months, and feel real good about these.
That's so if all the Pelicom listeners out there and the healthcare providers out there, as soon as Kris launches them, we'll be sending out emails and e-blasts and getting the word out to everybody, what's coming down.
Absolutely.
Well, Kris, this was amazing. Let's stay in touch. Love to see what you've got coming down the pipe. And like I said, any educational stuff that we can do together, love to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
As always, Melissa, we have a blast. Today's podcast, I want to thank Kris for showing up. I want to thank Wells for their support. Podcast is brought to you, as always, by Pelicom. Go to pelicom.com, learn more about all the cool stuff that we talked about today, and also RegenMax. Go to regenmax.com and learn about the world's only globally patented treatment for the reversal of ED. So with that being said, we want to thank all our listeners for joining us today. Final thanks to Kris. We'll see you on the shows, on the road, and good luck. And to both of you, try to de-stress, decompress, take your peptides, and go for a nice walk. How about
that? Very nice.
Tim, Melissa, thank you.
Tim, thanks, Kris. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Better Mojo, Better Life with Melissa and Tim, sponsored by Pelicom, the #1 solution for better living through science, and RegenMax, the only globally patented solution for the reversal of erectile dysfunction. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and invite you to download the podcast to stay connected with exciting new content. To leave a comment or ask a question, you can email us at tim@swcofusa.com.